I've always been an open-minded person who has believed in the supernatural and in cryptids, but this encounter made me 100% positive that things live in this world and we don't know. It was fall of 2010, I was 16 years old living with my dad in our home in the countryside of southeastern Ohio. Our property's backyard, which was a field, actually bordered the largest state park in the state of Ohio, something I think played into this occurrence. It was around 8 p.m. when the sun had just fully set, allowing for the bright full moon to bathe the ground in its soft glow. I was sat watching some crappy movie, I believe it was Summer Catch or something. This is when I felt the oddest sensation and urge to approach our large glass front door, almost like I was beckoned or called. Upon reaching the door, I looked out at the bright moonlit front yard to see a tall milky white-skinned creature on all fours running, or so it was till it stopped, as if a predator sensing its prey. Its skin was pulled tight against its emaciated, almost skeletal body, which was almost glowing in the moonlight. It smelled the air like a hungry wolf smelling for a rabbit before its head snapped to the right towards the front door, where it locked eyes with me, its eyes a milky white devoid of any retina or pupil, and I also realized its lips and nose were absent from its pale bald head as well. It felt like an hour that my pale blue eyes and its milky orbs looked into the other's soul, or whatever this thing possessed inside, resembling a soul. After the stare down, it snapped its head back forward and sprinted off towards the field of our property. After it left my side, I immediately backed up slowly, similar to the scene in Jaws, where Chief Brody sees the shark up close for the first time. Upon reaching the living room, my dad asked why the weird entrance. I immediately told him in a shaky voice what I saw, which unsurprisingly for the pretty lackluster father he was, immediately was shot down and told I was making it up or saw a coyote. I argued with him what I saw was no creature I'd ever seen, and that coyotes aren't hairless, pale white or emaciated. He of course just rolled his eyes and said to calm down, that it was nothing and to just let it go. I later thought it over and thought maybe he, growing up on this same property, had seen it and didn't want to remember it. That night I slept with my hockey stick in my bed next to me, or so I had tried to, but alas, sleep eluded me, and I spent the next day nodding off in class as I tried to shake the weird feeling that locking eyes with it brought me. I began to slowly relax and pushed it to the back of my mind, only being reminded when the sun went down daily and I had to let my Dachshund puppy out every night, but every so often I'd look out at the dark woods of the state park in our backyard and feel like it was staring back at me, as if it was waiting for its chance to come closer than before and make me sorry I ever looked it in the eyes. After high school, I moved in with my mom in the city because of a mixture of her and I being close, her having health issues that I wanted to help take care of her because of my father and I's strain related, but I knew deep down it was also so I could never see that thing again, and that worked. I never did. But one cold weekend in the winter of 2013, my best friend's mom began to date my dad, so I decided to go visit and spend the weekend at my dad's house. My dad and his girlfriend were Christmas shopping, as it was just my best friend and me home alone with the dogs. We needed to let them out to pee, so we opened the sliding back door to let them out, but we were hit with a deafening silence outside, as if nature and the nearby highway was muted. I immediately felt the feeling off those eyes in the woods looking at me and was brought back to that night years earlier. I told my friend to immediately shut the door and the dog could just pee inside, which would get me a tongue lashing from my dad, but so be it, to be escape this thing getting closer or smelling me again. Now comes the part that has, as of the last few months, bothered me and made me feel as if that night in 2010 left me cursed. Over the years after then, I've been in 2 car accidents, nearly died of appendicitis, had the worst string of bad luck, went through a period of time where I almost killed myself from depression, along with other straight up horrible instances where I've felt cursed. Even recently I've been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is a painful and life-hindering nerve and muscle disease that has forced me to have to go on disability, along with my worsening anxiety issues I've developed. I came to the cursed conclusion and realization of what I saw was a Wendigo this past spring when I watched a show called In Search of Monsters, which had an episode on the Wendigo where it was described to not only have the traditional accounts of being tall with a deer's skull, but as a tall pale humanoid with no nose or lips paired with milky white eyes. This of course caused me to have a full-blown panic attack and actually shake as I realized I had locked eyes with this voracious and terrifying beast. This led me to begin to read about and study the Wendigo, where my research has both led me to feel terrible for the poor souls that must suffer the fate of being one, and also in a fear-induced awe of their ferocity and power. I believe when I locked eyes with that Wendigo over 11 years ago, it didn't do its often reported possession of me, making me be another of it, but instead cursed me to have all the misfortunes, personal pain and discord in my life.